Good morning. I'm Arlene Maclin, and I have been with the Washington, Baltimore, Hampton Roads LSMCE program since inception. And so that's been 20 years. But we actually in 2000, the year 2000, we decided to expand the alliance and added three more schools. So our baseline data for the center is really starting with the year 2000. And I just want to go briefly on some of that. Our enrollment, you see the enrollment here. We have 7 schools in our alliance. Howard University is the lead institution. Then we have Bowie State, Morgan State, University of the District of Columbia, Hampton University, Virginia State University, and Norfolk State University. So we have 7 schools. And our enrollment, we are the largest alliance serving African Americans in the country. And our enrollment for this currently is close to a little over 8,000 students. So we should be, if the situation were ideal, if everything were ideal, we should be actually graduating about 2,000, little over 2,000 students a year in STEM. This is our STEM enrollment. Now, what have we done in that since 2000? We have produced over 16,000 bachelor's degrees, 1,600 master's degrees, and 460 PhD degrees. Most of those PhD degrees have actually been produced by Howard University, but since 2000 we've had a number of schools within the Alliance who've actually established PhD programs, including Morgan State in engineering, Bowie State in computer science, Norfolk State in material science and engineering, and of course Howard, and the rest of the schools. UDC I don't think they don't have any PhD program. But one of the hallmarks of our program, and I have been an advocate of this certainly since 2005, is that all of our students in STEM should have 3 internships, one with a major research university, one with a national laboratory, and an international experience. And we have been able to bring in the international component, which was hard initially. In fact, when I started advocating this, I had no idea how we were going to do the international part. And what comes along but the grace of God? And in comes the Intelligence Community Center for Academic Excellence. And guess who got one? I did. Pan Am got one too, in El Paso as well. In that first solicitation, the first solicitation in 2006, we got a Norfolk State. I was at Norfolk State at the time, and we got a CAE program. And what that meant for us was that we could introduce, at the time, in 2006, Norfolk State did not offer any major in a foreign language, none. They had discontinued the French major in 1992 because of budgetary constraints. And so the only language that you could major in at Norfolk State was English. But this program brought in 3 languages. It brought in Arabic, Japanese, and Chinese, which really revolutionized our campus. And through that program, since 2006, we have supported more than 100 students going to Morocco to learn Arabic, Egypt to learn Arabic, Japan to learn Japanese, China to learn Chinese, Tunisia to learn Arabic. Now I'm taking students to India. I take typically 12 to 15 students a year to India. And we have introduced 2 new languages into our schools now, Hindi and Bengali. Bowie has introduced Bengali, and we introduced Hindi to the other 4 schools last year. So that has really been a marvelous thing. And I would really, what I said let me tell you, from 2006 to 2009, our CAE was the top producer of internships. And what we did at Norfolk State was that my thing was, I said, I want every science major to layer your major with a language. And we and the intelligence community couldn't snap them up fast enough. We were producing probably the optical engineering program, which I started, in the face of a physics program that produced 2 or 3 students. In our peak in 2007, we had over 100 students. That's not the case anymore. But the point is, we were producing 20, 25 optical engineering students. And some of those students, about 2/3 of them went into the job market. They got jobs in the intelligence community. And the other third are in are either finished PhD programs or are in PhD programs. I've just had the delight of one of my students just finished her PhD at the University of Connecticut and has just taken a postdoc at Princeton in biomedical engineering, who is one of my optical engineering students. And we've also had, since 2004, since the LSMCE was a mature center, we started getting the Bridges to the Doctorate program in 2004. So we've got 3, 2004, 2006, and 2008. And we have actually, during that period, the numbers are, we've admitted 60 Bridges to the Doctorate students. 50 of those were admitted to the PhD program. 10 have gotten master's degrees, and the others are in process. And one of the things that I don't want to talk about this slide. This is just all of the data overview. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, and it was sort of eclipsed yesterday by the film that Juanita offered, and also by the young man. I was so impressed with this young man yesterday. And he said, the young Latino man who was on the panel, he said, I started at the community college at Olive Harvey. Then I went to Chicago State and got my degree. And now I'm at Caltech in a postdoctoral program. How do we actually talk about the return on investment for what happens to this young man and the hundreds of other people that were in our film yesterday? And let me just, this is old now. I've rethought this now. But the WBHR program since 2000 at Howard has gotten $12 million. We produce about 5.3% of all the BS degrees for minorities in the country. We're the largest producers of all in the nation for African Americans, and we provide direct access for research to a large number of students. And we also, Howard has the unusual opportunity to offer students research at some of our major national facilities. In fact, I didn't do an outhouse PhD at Howard, because that's what I call it. I was a theoretician, but we used to call it outhouse because you could do your PhD at ONR, you could do it at a National Research Lab, NIST, National Institute of Standards, then NIH. So a variety of places. Students can actually have dual mentoring by faculty at Howard as well as at some of the national facilities. That's unique to Washington, D.C. And the bridge, so we've only had $12 million for that. And in the Bridges to the Doctorate program, about $3 million and 60 students. So how do you measure that? And one of the things I've said is, well, how do we measure return on investment? It's a very difficult thing. And so many of you who know me know I talk a lot, but I rarely talk about myself. And I'm going to do something very unusual for me today, and that is to talk about myself, because in January of this year, I was selected to be a history maker, and filmmakers came to my house, and I talked for 5.5 hours about myself. And it's all now in the historymaker.org website. But my early beginnings are very different, maybe very similar to many of yours, and that is, I was born on a rural farm in Virginia, tobacco farm. My mother had a 7th grade education, and my father a 3rd grade education. But my mother was very unusual in that she knew both the Latin name and the common name for more than 1,000 plants. I have no idea how she learned the Latin name. But I was born feet first. That's true. Don't laugh at it. Please don't laugh. And so I was born the 9th out of 10 children, feet first. But one of the things that happened was my mother said, well, her feet do look a little different, but she didn't pay much attention to it. It was June. We're still in the farm and busy. Everybody's busy in June on the farm. And so my aunt comes, my paternal aunt comes to visit the new baby in July, which she always came in July. And she says, Alice and Armstead, something is wrong with that child's feet. So she said, you need to bring that child to Richmond. And they did. They took me to Richmond, and it turned out that my feet were like this. That's the way I was born. And so I was taken to Richmond at 3 months old, and I had 9 operations on my feet to get them straight. I want you to show them to you now. Nobody can outwalk me. Now what I do is this. I have my feet, shoes molded, custom made, and I go to South Africa, get the ostrich skin, put on my feet. Okay? So, they used to laugh at me, but no more. But the point is, how do you measure that? And I have in my as I was talking to the young man here today, I have mentored more than I don't even know. I do virtual mentoring. I'm right now mentoring 2 young Hispanic women in physics. One is at Berkeley and one is at Vanderbilt, because I went to a SACNAS meeting 2 years ago and I sat at the elders table and they said, we want you to mentor me. I said, great, I'd love to. And so I do a lot of virtual mentoring. So I don't even know how many students I've mentored, but I do know since 2006, I have mentored directly over 100 African-American males, and they all have degrees in STEM, and similarly over 100 females. So how do you measure the impact? What is the return on investment of a person like that? And I say it's indefinite. And my colleague who's in the audience, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Mary Johnson, are you here? I want you to go to Salon C this afternoon to hear her at 11:10, and also Dr. Clarence Lee. These are the people who really have made much, much greater impact than I could ever imagine.